Hello, good afternoon, and welcome everybody. Thank you very, very much for joining us and a very happy Global Entrepreneurship Week, International Trade Week, whichever you're celebrating or both. Thank you very much for joining us and welcome to our NatWest Business Builder session, Writing a Great 60-Second Pitch. It's a really, really special one for us this week. We're going to be going through how to structure, write and deliver a great 60-second pitch confidently and concisely. And that is a huge part of what we do within our Business Builder program and our wider entrepreneurship support. And so this is a session we've been delivering for years and years to thousands of entrepreneurs, but this week it's particularly special because we have a fantastic competition to tell you about at the end of this session as well, where one of you will have the chance to get your hands on £10,000 funding for your business. So we'll make a start. Thank you for joining us, and as we go through this week, whenever you happen to be watching, be this Monday or be this Friday afternoon when you're engaging, a massive thank you, and I look forward to seeing you in future sessions. So, as we said, today is all about writing a great 60-second pitch, a source of anxiety for so many people, for whatever reason, completely justified, and I counted myself as one of those when I had my own business as well. But actually, when we strip it away, which we're going to do today, and look at each of its component parts, there's really nothing to be afraid of. And so my sincere hope is by the end of this 40 minutes or so, you'll have everything you need to put pen to paper, get going, and enter our competition. And so this is what today looks like. We're going to look at the importance of a 60-second pitch, look at when you may need it, look at how you may need it, and who may be asking for it. Then we'll break the pitch down into what content should we look at, how many words, what kind of language, and where do I put it. Then we're going to look at a solid pitch structure that not only allows you to deliver concisely, but actually allows you to remember it. So one of those big areas of fear is, well, what if I forget what I'm going to say? Well, a structure will really help you to combat that and feel comfortable, so that even if you do have to stop and think about where you are, it's much easier to get going again. And then finally, we'll look at key techniques for pitch delivery, because no matter how good the content is, no matter how good the structure is, if the delivery is off, you don't give yourself the best opportunity. So we'll look at how to deliver your pitch really, really confidently, whether in person or on Zoom, as we all are at the moment. And then finally, we'll touch on our fantastic 10K challenge and how you can get involved and submit your pitch for entry. So let's make a start and talk about, well, when might you need a pitch? Oh, jumped the gun a bit there. When might you need a pitch? Well, as the image would dictate, 60-second pitches tend to get abbreviated or colloquially known as the elevator pitch. In other words, how would you concisely explain what you do or who you are to somebody if you had the amount of time it took for a lift to reach one floor or another? You never know when that might be. You never know who's going to run into you. You never know who they know. And so really, if you haven't always got a pitch, or you at least aren't always able to confidently explain yourself, then you could be missing out on opportunities for your own development or your business development every single day. So you've always got to have one in your back pocket. Now, we're not necessarily saying that if you were sat in a coffee shop and somebody asks, what do you do? You're going to jump up and give a Dragon's Den delivery style pitch. Chances are they'll drink their coffee very quickly and leave you to it. But what we are saying is that you've always got to have those stock answers ready. And so whether you're delivering a standard elevator pitch or whether you're having a colloquial conversation with somebody, you've always got to have those answers ready. And so that's what we're going to explore today. But that first question, that first point of today is that you never know when you're going to need one. You never know who you're going to run into. So make sure you've always got one. Before we go any further as well, I want to talk about or nip one thing in the bud. And that's that we've talked about that, or I've already referenced that show Dragon's Den or The Apprentice, and we tend to associate pitching for those environments only. But as we've just talked about, you could be called upon to pitch or at least tell somebody what you do at any point. And so really the thing that we tend to do as individuals that leads to that anxiety or fear that we may have with pitching is that we tend to associate that 60 seconds or that elevator ride as the opportunity where I've got to tell somebody everything about myself or my business. I've got to get everything out in just one opportunity. And the chances are that that's what's going to make us feel anxious. That's going to lead us to garble what we're going to say. And it's going to mean that our delivery isn't great. It's not going to make an impression. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves for that pitch, and therefore it seems overwhelming and a lot bigger than it is. And so actually I want to sort of normalize that criteria that the purpose of a 60-second pitch is not to raise investment. The purpose of a 60-second pitch is not to onboard that person into your business. The purpose of the 60-second pitch is to get the conversation that leads to that investment, or get the second conversation that leads to that resource coming into your business. The whole point of your 60-second pitch is to be the movie trailer to the conversation you want to have. And so all you have to do, the success criteria for your 60-second pitch, is to have another conversation with somebody. And so as you're putting the content together, as you're building what you want to say, always keep that in the back of your mind. Would I want to have another conversation with somebody that was saying this? Keep that in the forefront of your mind. It'll stand you in good stead. So there's 3 key components to a 60-second pitch. If we break it down into 3 areas, as we said, content. Well, what do I leave out? What do I put in? How many words? How do I say that? What use of language? And how do I structure it for maximum impact? And then most importantly of all, how do I deliver it so that it's memorable, so that I seem credible, and so that most importantly, you get that second conversation? Well, let's start with content. Again, my slide deck appears to be jumping around a little bit there. With content, we've got 3 key rules. The first key rule with content is how many words. There's not an exact science to this, but if we think about it for just a second, 60 seconds, it's not a lot of time. It's more than people think, but it's not a lot of time. And so we've got a hard maximum for you of 150 words in that 60-second period. 150 words, no more. That's not to say that if you've got 140, you've got to stick another 10 in there, but treat 150 words as your hard maximum. So if you're using Microsoft Word or Google Docs or whatever you use, keep the word count close at hand so that you know what to work with. It won't look like a lot on a page, but 150 words is 2.5 words a second. Any more than that, you run the risk of speaking too quickly. And as you know, if you've ever run into somebody on the street or wherever that speaks very, very quickly to you or at you, you stop taking information in. You start taking information in and you start to plan your escape. And when you're delivering a pitch, that's the last thing you want people to do or be thinking. You want them listening to you and engaging with what you have to say. So 150 words is the first content rule. The second content rule is to keep it nice and simple as you possibly can. And so for that, we say use the 5-year-old test. In other words, would a 5-year-old understand what you do from the pitch that you're delivering? And there's a reason for that, and that's because you cannot guarantee that anybody listening will have the same knowledge level or the same interest level as you. And so if you fill your pitch with acronyms or advertising speak or abbreviations that, whilst they're second nature to you, may be completely alien terms to individuals. And if we do that, then we run the risk of alienating individuals that are listening to us and that could hold the key to our progression. We cannot assume that an investor that we work with will have the same level of technical knowledge as we do. We cannot assume actually that anybody that could open a door for us will do that. With all of our accelerator hubs across the UK, I used to look after the one in Birmingham and was very lucky to do that. And in our co-working space, we had an individual that made the most phenomenal wedding cakes. That was her business. And she sat next to a guy that did biomedical research. And so when you think about a partnership there, there's the plot of a Marvel film, I'm fairly sure. But actually in pitching practice, very, very different industries, very, very different disciplines and respects. But they managed to make their pitches completely understandable so that both could tell the other what they did. And the way that they did that was to strip out all of the abbreviations and the acronyms. And the reason that that was important is because you don't know who those entrepreneurs are connected to. You may well be, if you're going down the investment route or you're looking to find somebody to come into the business at a high level, you may well find that individual through another business contact in a completely different industry. And so if your pitch is filled with industry-specific acronyms and abbreviations, you limit the amount of referrals that can be made. And so really think about that. 150 words is the first rule. Second rule, if you were explaining your business and what you do to a 5-year-old, how would you do that? And that'll ensure that you keep it nice and simple so that you make your pitch as appealing and as understandable to as many people as possible. And then finally, third rule for content is there's certainly banned words. 150 words, nice and simple language, that stands to reason there's going to be quite a few banned words in there as well. And so whilst this isn't an exhaustive list, words like hopefully, probably, almost, might, all of those kinds of things, well, they don't do anything really other than trigger doubt or a sense of uncertainty from your audience. And whatever you may be pitching for, a job interview, investment, resourcing, whatever it is, if the person at the receiving end of your pitch senses doubt or caution or any kind of uncertainty from what you do, the chances are that you're not going to get the result that you hoped for. And so whilst your pitch has absolutely got to be truthful, really, really think about how you can use confident language to portray what you're doing. And so to give you an example, a trajectory that we hear or words that we hear quite regularly within the accelerator program here at NatWest are, well, yeah, I'm hopefully going to get some angel investment in the middle part of the year, and we'll probably look to take this to market at the early part of next year. And I think anybody can relate to that, right? But in truth, what that perceives, or what that causes us to perceive, is a sense of uncertainty. This person isn't sure. Is this person perhaps in control? Whereas instead of those words, instead of going, well, hopefully and probably, if they'd said, we're actively seeking angel investment with a view to being at market at the end of the year, they haven't told me anything differently. You haven't told me anything differently there. All you've done is you've used more confident language to create a sense of certainty and a sense that this individual is credible and in control. And so that's it for content. 150 words, nice and simple, no abbreviations, and nice, confident use of language. Nothing that's going to trigger doubt. And so once we've got our content and we start to know what we're working with, how we lay that out is really, really important. And so what we're going to go through now is our tried and tested pitch structure. I think there must be about 20,000 entrepreneurs that we've gone through this with. And this is going to form the basis of the pitching competition that I'll introduce in a little while. But structure is really, really important for a couple of reasons. As we talked about at the beginning of the session, quite often a reason why people tend to not want to seize opportunities to pitch, particularly in networking environments and so on, is the risks. The risk of messing up. What would I say? Or what if I mess up? What if I forget what I'm doing? And so on and so on. All completely valid concerns, completely understandable. And so a structure not only allows you to deliver a pitch for impact really clearly so that people take things in, but it also acts as a way for you to remember where you are at any given moment. And so even if you do have that temporary lapse in memory, it's easy to remember where you are, get yourself started again. And so with a pitch, it's really, really important that we understand a bit of the psychology of the audience that we listen to begin with. And so if we think about when we're pitching to a networking breakfast, to an investor, to your business partner, it's fair to say that you are never, ever guaranteed their attention. Whether it's fair or not is a completely different thing, but the chances are you could be pitching to a room full of people at a networking breakfast, 25th in a list of 25 pitches. And the previous 24 were not that strong. They weren't that great. So just think about how if you've been in that situation before, how are you feeling if you're sat there in that moment, you've listened to 24 not so great pitches, and then there's one individual at the end. You're just going to look and swirl your orange juice or continue with your breakfast, but you're not going to be paying attention. You're going to go, these great, aren't they? They aren't that great. And that could be you. That could be you standing there with something really important to say. And so what you do to get the attention of that room again is really, really important. And the reason that I say this is because when you structure your pitch, we see a lot of pitches that start with, "Hi, I'm Josh from the NatWest Accelerator." And whilst that's fine, not that many people are going to engage with that. That's not going to get those individuals that have turned off because of the previous bad pitches to look up and listen and engage with you. And so what we tend to do is think about how can you hook your audience in straight away. As we know, the human condition, it takes about 7 seconds for somebody to form a subconscious opinion of you. And so for those of you that formed an opinion of me about 13 minutes ago, I'm really sorry. I've probably got about another 20 minutes to go. But it's important that we engage them and we combat that. Regardless of that subconscious opinion, we want their attention. And so using some of those 150 words to hook your audience in at the beginning of a pitch, massively, massively important. You want to grab their attention. You want that equivalent of getting them by the scruff of the shirt sleeves and get them to listen to you and engage with you. And so whatever it is, whether it's quoting an interesting statistic, whether it's a shop tactic, I've seen people jump up and down onto furniture, I've seen them shout, whatever it is, you want them to engage with you so that when you actually kick in with the rest of your pitch, they're listening, they're engaged with you, and they're going to take that information in, which gives you the best chance of getting that second conversation. And so to give you a couple of examples, we had a business quite recently working in the hospitality industry, making attachments so that people can't steal the hotel shampoo in their hotels. And so their hook is Britain steals 430 million gallons of hotel shampoo per year. Now, that works on a couple of levels, because one, that is a huge number. I don't know how many Olympic-sized swimming pools that would fill. But equally, who hasn't stolen hotel shampoo? I dread to think how much of my bathroom cabinet is full of it. And so everybody has that emotional connection. Oh, I've done that. But then you start to appreciate the size of the figure. And before you realize it, you are engaged with what that person's saying because you have connected with them. The best pitch I've ever seen was from a business based in Glasgow. Their business forms barriers to go over the side of a cargo ship to stop them being boarded, to stop a rope ladder being thrown over it. And so their pitch is, hi, I'm Steve and I fight pirates for a living. Now, I don't know about you, but if somebody says I fight pirates, I'm going to listen. I've got the Pirates of the Caribbean music in my head, and I've got Jack Sparrow vividly pictured in my mind's eye. And you're going to listen to that individual. And so whatever the hook is, whatever's relevant to your business, make sure that the way that you start your pitch is designed to engage with people, get them to look up from their networking breakfast, get them to look up from their notes or their laptop and pay attention to you. It's a worthwhile use of the first couple of seconds of your pitch, and it's absolutely a worthwhile use of some of those 150 words. Then what you do next is even more important. You've worked really, really hard to get the attention of that room. They're on side, they're listening to you. You've got the whites of people's eyes looking at you. Now what you do is really, really important. And so instead of then introducing yourself, which people still aren't necessarily going to engage with, the best thing you can do is tell them the problem that you solve. Straight in with the problem that you solve. Now this section and the next one is where entrepreneurs are really, really passionate, because they're passionate about problem solving and they're passionate about the way they've solved it. And so as a caveat, this section and the next is where most entrepreneurs and business owners tend to get carried away with their word count and they get a bit excited. And so very, very simply, remember, you can have all of that detailed conversation in that next conversation. But right now, you're looking to cover three things. First and foremost, tell me what the problem is. Then tell me who has that problem. And finally, tell me how that individual feels as a result of that problem. So is it discomfort? Is it financial stress? Is it physical stress, or whatever it may be? What's the problem? Who has it? And how do they feel as a result? You probably don't want to spend more than 30 to 35 words on those three statements altogether. Really, really high level. What's the problem? Who has it? And how do they feel as a result? Super clear, so that if your audience is sat in front of you, if your target customer is sat in your audience, they're going to feel like you're talking to them. And if they're not, your audience is still completely clear on the problem that you solve and how they may be able to engage. So what's the problem? Who has it? How do they feel as a result? The next one, my slides seem to be playing catch up a little bit, so bear with me. Not entirely sure what's happening there, so bear with me a moment. The next one, which is really, really important, is your solution statement. And so if you bear with me just a moment, because it would appear that my computer has decided to freeze in the middle of a broadcast. So bear with me just one moment and I will sort this out. But when you've now told me the problem that you solve, you told me who has that problem, and you've told me how they feel as a result of having that problem. Now what you've got to do is exactly the same, with the same number of words, same number of passion, but with the same amount of clarity. You've got to tell me exactly how you solve that. So then tell me what your solution is, tell me what's different about it, and most importantly of all, tell me why I would come to you. That point of differentiation, very much like explaining how that problem manifests itself to the people that have it, is what's going to form that personal connection with your audience. Identifying that USP is going to give whoever's listening to you the freedom to understand exactly why they would come to you, or why, in the case of this pitch, they should engage with you. So what's the problem? Who has it? How do they feel as a result? Then what's your solution? What's different about it? And why would I come to you? 6 points altogether, probably 10 words per point, 60 words. When you include your hook as well at the beginning, you're about halfway through your pitch word count. You're halfway through your pitch, halfway through your word count. And so the reason that I say and really, really give that challenge of make sure that your words are tight, don't get carried away with features and benefits, is because if you do, your pitch and what's going to come next is going to suffer as a result of that. So really, really make sure that you've got that clarity that people are going to understand and take away. Now, I think I've got my slides back, so bear with me just a moment and I will bring that back up for you. There we go. They are there. Fantastic. Love teething problems in the middle of Global Entrepreneurship Week. So very, very briefly to recap, because I'm conscious you haven't had the slides. Tell me what the problem is. Tell me who has that problem. Tell me how they feel as a result. 3 points, 30, 35 words. Then tell me what your solution is, what your innovation is. Tell me why it's different, and fundamentally tell me why I should come to you. At that point now, we've got people's attention, we've explained the problem, we've explained how we solve that problem. Now we need to start evidencing some credibility and some reasons why and justifications as to why people should invest their time, cash, whatever it is, in you. And so the opportunity section is probably the meatiest as a standalone, probably about 40 words here, maybe something like that. And this is where you start evidencing the opportunity. Now, market size is a great way to do that. And so, for instance, understanding your positioning within the market. Do you operate within a £500 billion global market that you want 0.1% of? Do you operate within a £2 million cottage industry that you want 20% of? There's not necessarily any right or wrong, but by demonstrating and quoting that, you are demonstrating the fact that you are completely clued up in terms of where your business sits and the opportunity that's available. Numbers are a great way to demonstrate credibility, whether that's existing sales, have you just onboarded your first customer, your 1,000th customer, have you just surpassed a level of turnover or profit? They're all great ways to demonstrate credibility, or any kind of traction to date. And so whilst that can absolutely be financial, other kinds of traction are, well, have you won any awards? Have you worked with a university or any kind of governing body to commission a research report on a particular area that you're working within? All of these kinds of things are going to demonstrate the credibility and the justification as to why you are an investable business, either with finances, with time, or with resources from whichever industry. Now, the final point here is quite an interesting one, risks. Because about 5 or 6 slides ago, we were talking about nice, confident language, nothing that's going to trigger doubt. And so risks can be a slightly interesting one. But we've included it because particularly if you're building a 60-second pitch for investment and you are targeting financial investment, particularly understanding or explaining the risks to your business if investment isn't sought is a great way to demonstrate that you have not got rose-tinted glasses on about your business and where it sits. And actually by stating, we currently have 2 very, very close competitors. We have the competitive advantage at the moment, but if investment isn't secured in a timely fashion, we could lose our commanding position. That really demonstrates to an investor that you have a really solid knowledge of your brand positioning, your business positioning, and your competitor analysis. And so if you are going for investment of a financial nature, make sure that you do include an element of that risk. What happens if the investment isn't secured? And so the opportunity, you're really trying to justify and sell why you are investable from a time, finances, or any other resource point of view. Next, we've got the team. Now, if you're a solopreneur at this point, if you're the only one in your business, this is great. This is your opportunity to wax lyrical about yourself. But fundamentally, whether it's yourself, whether it's a wider team, you're answering the question, well, who are you and why are you there? You know, there's that well-known phrase that's been around for eons, which is that people buy from people. And so you could have the best business proposition in the world, but if you don't make an engagement with individuals, it's much, much harder to get that over the line. And so an introduction of yourself and your experience, what's led you to that point, is really, really useful. Now, there's loads and loads of examples that you can use for this. You may well have 25 years experience in the industry. You may have a PhD in the subject that your business operates within. Or you may just have endured a particular situation that your business now seeks to combat. There's no right or wrong, but explaining who you are, the position you hold, and why you're there, it starts to allow people to put a puzzle together in their mind as to why that's a good fit, I can see why they're there. I can really understand why they're genuine and they feel like a good fit to do what they're doing. Now, if you are talking about your wider team as well, you don't need to go into so much detail, but it is worth identifying, well, who's in your team, what positions have you got filled? And again, if you're going for investment, that final point there of the chances are a portion of that investment will be delivered to or will be allocated to your next hire. And so explaining who that's liable to be is really, really useful as well. But who are you and why are you there? That's a really important one. And then finally, your ask. At the end of a pitch, you have the power to ask your audience, whether it's an audience of 1, an audience of 300, to ask for what your business needs most to progress further. And so whether that's access to funding, referrals to customers, introductions to mentors, there is no right or wrong, but take the time to understand whenever you're going to deliver your pitch, what's the most powerful thing I can ask for at this moment in time. Definitely don't waste your ask. Don't overlook it. There will always be something that's worthwhile asking for from whatever audience you're pitching to. And so make sure you've built that in. And whilst your entire pitch is a living document, it will change and evolve as you change and evolve. Your ask will change on a pitch by pitch basis. So always think about what is this audience most likely to be able to give me to progress my business. And particularly in this country, we're very, very polite. We don't tend to do that. But the fundamental thing is that if we don't ask, we don't get. And in that situation, with that engaged audience, you've got the best possible chance of getting the end result you want. So make sure you really think about that ask at the end. And so that is the pitch structure. Your hook, your problem, your solution, the opportunity, the team, and the ask. Seems like a lot for 60 seconds. There will have been some of you watching this, I'm sure, going, how on earth am I going to get this into 60 seconds? I promise you, it absolutely can be done. 60 seconds, 150 words. Now, as you step away and write this later on today, the rest of the week, over the weekend, or into next week, as a suggestion, start with the problem, start writing the problem first, do the solution, the opportunity, the team, and the ask. The hook will come to you tomorrow morning while you make breakfast, or this evening whilst you're watching the TV, or whenever it is. Because what I find is a lot of people will sit down after a session like this, they'll try and write the pitch, they'll write hook at the top of the piece of paper, and then all they'll hear is, I fight pirates, or Britain steal 430 million gallons of hotel shampoo. And they're good examples, but they frustrate people. And what we see quite often is that people will get frustrated that they can't write the hook, and then they don't write the rest of the pitch. So write the main body of the content first, and I promise the hook will come to you afterwards. So that's a great way to start. Now we're going to do delivery. But before I do that, to play on that point around, I completely appreciate that some people will go, well, how on earth do I get all of that information clearly and concisely into 60 seconds? And it is a slightly difficult one. It is something that takes practice, it takes time, and the delivery is something that comes over time. But just to give you an example of what we're looking for here, or what we're working with, I'm going to share with you the example that I have, my example pitch. I'm very lucky to look after our Business Builder program, of which this is a session. I'll be talking a little bit more about that at the end. But when I go to networking events, when we used to be able to go out, I'll share with you the pitch that I would routinely deliver. And so as I do, keep an eye out for the content rules we've talked about, keep an eye out for the structure we've just gone through, and then we'll be referring to a bit to the delivery a little bit later. Only 40% of businesses make it past year 5. The problem is there isn't that free, impartial support for business owners, and so as a result, they often feel lonely and isolated at a time where they need support the most, and so they end up winding up. NatWest Business Builder creates an online learning environment where people can upskill in a self-serve environment at their own pace. We have workshops that allow people to connect with other entrepreneurs, and an online community where they can share, challenge, and gain new skills. Hi, I'm Josh, Program Lead for Business Builder. And over the last year and a half, we've supported over 10,000 businesses to develop their business ideas and get past that year 5. The wider entrepreneurship team has supported over 20,000 businesses and created over 8,000 jobs for the UK economy. We're a dedicated team of over 30 qualified business coaches. And my ask of you is that if anybody you know or yourself are looking to start up a business and would like some free, impartial support, please introduce yourselves to me and I'll be happy to have a chat with you. And so I probably went a little bit over 60 seconds. I may well have been a little bit over 150 words, but hopefully as we've gone through that, you've seen the structure at work there. You've seen the content, nice, confident language, and so on and so on. And so you've been able to follow that. Hopefully that breaks down the walls around getting everything into 60 seconds. But now we're going to cover the most important part of a 60-second pitch, because no matter how good your content is and how good your structure is, it all comes down to delivery. And when we think of delivery in a pitch, it really comes down to this. It's a performance, but it's not an act. And so what do we mean by that? Well, actors spend most of their time portraying somebody else. Your pitch has to be genuine and sound like you. And so if we think about performers in general, singers, musicians, comedians, whoever it is, they have that slickness of delivery because they've practiced it a lot. And so really important thing that I want to emphasize before anything else with a pitch is that the best chance of delivery you've got is if you've rehearsed it again and again and again. And so as we've gone through the content and the structure, and as you go into the next week or so and start to write it down, as soon as you've got a version that you're happy with, start to get it down off by heart. Start to really deliver it without notes. Because whilst, yeah, I can look here and read my pitch off it and I'll never get a word wrong, I'm engaging with this book and I'm not engaging with you. And as a result, you're going to turn off and you're going to switch off because I don't seem engaged, I don't seem interested in you. So make sure that it's really, really well rehearsed and that it is a true reflection of you. That point there, be yourself, massively important. If you're funny, then be funny. If you're not, please don't try. If you would never use the word onomatopoeia in your life, please make sure that onomatopoeia is not in your 60-second pitch. Make sure it's in language that you feel comfortable in delivering and that you deliver it in a very, very comfortable way. A couple of other points. That 60 seconds, it's going to feel like no time at all. And with the natural nervousness that people tend to have when it comes to pitching, it would be so easy for us to just get rid of those 150 words in 30 seconds, but nobody will take in what you've got to say. So just before you deliver a 60-second pitch, make sure you take a nice deep breath in, just nothing dramatic, and the process of doing that, it's amazing what it does. It gets you on a nice, regular tempo to deliver your pitch. Use all of that 60 seconds and deliver with maximum impact. So make sure you take that breath and speak slowly as you go through. But most importantly of all, particularly when you're delivering on Zoom, which for the now we are, body language is a very, very difficult one to read because most people are sat down. I'm sat down talking to you. But I make a point, and you should too, whether you're speaking into a laptop or whether you're speaking into a phone, look directly at the camera. It's so easy for me to look at my slides down here, but if I do that, I'm still not looking at you. So make sure you look into the camera because that's going to feel like you're making eye contact with other people, with the person that's listening to you. And that is really how you display confident body language to anybody that's listening. You make eye contact. If you're in a room full of people, that's what anybody would say. So make sure you focus on the camera. If you're in a virtual environment, in a COVID world, when we're in a post-COVID world, make sure you engage with people and you stand confident. Don't look at your shoes, certainly don't look at notes. So remember that. With performance, it takes rehearsal. And so as soon as you've got a version of your pitch that you're happy with, I always say that your bathroom mirror or your smartphone camera, they're your best friend. Start to understand how you look as well as how you sound. And when you've got a version that you like, just keep practicing it over and over again so that it's slick. And so that the next time you're in a coffee shop and somebody asks what you do, you're not going to jump up and deliver the whole thing, but all of those super slick answers, they're ready. And you can knock people's socks off with what you've got to say. That's when you know your pitch is absolutely fantastic. And so this is where we come to the fun bit. That is our pitching workshop: content, structure, delivery. Remember the 3 content rules: nice, confident language, 150 words, and nice and simple. Then think about that structure: your hook, problem, solution, the opportunity, the team, and your ask. And then think about the delivery. Performance, but it's not an act. So get it rehearsed and make sure that it really, really feels reflective of you. And so over the next week, it is Monday of Global Entrepreneurship Week. It's now time to start writing your own or adding to your own if you've already got one. Make time in your diary to put the notes from this session or revisit your old pitch. But protect that time. It's an important thing, as we know. You never know when you're going to need a pitch. You never know who you're going to run into. So make sure you've protected some time to focus on it this week. If you're writing from scratch, remember to write the hook last. Let it come to you. And then make sure that you record yourself with your new pitch, and you can either share it with the Business Builder Facebook group for some great peer feedback, or we've got our competition coming up too. And that is this week's real focus. We have within Business Builder a desire to teach 10,000 people to pitch this week. And so as part of our 10K challenge, we want to teach 10,000 people to pitch, but we also want to give one lucky individual the opportunity to win £10,000 to develop their business, as well as 6 months free coaching for them and 4 runners-up. And so as we go through the rest of this week, take some time to write and record your 60-second pitch using the content, structure, and delivery methods that we've gone through today. Upload your pitch to YouTube. We'll be dropping in the comments section a how-to guide to create a YouTube account and upload a video, and submit the URL to us by no later than the 30th of November 2020. Again, we'll drop the inbox in there. I'm not quite sure why it hasn't gone in there, but make sure that you upload your pitch to YouTube and email the URL to businessbuilder@natwest.com. And then the final part of the criteria is make sure that you register for Business Builder today. Register for Business Builder. I'll be putting the link in the comments section as well to get yourself registered to our Business Builder program, and make sure that you take a look at all of the different pitching support and other business development support that we've got as well. So to simply recap, all you've got to do is put what we've just talked about into practice. Write your 60-second pitch according to content, structure, and delivery that we've talked about today. Record it and upload it to your YouTube channel, and send us the URL to that YouTube video. Send it to businessbuilder@natwest.com, and make sure you get yourself registered for Business Builder as well. If you've got any questions, please contact us. Again, all of our contact details will be in the comments below. You can always reach out to us. But for now, thank you very, very much for joining us. Get yourself registered to Business Builder. Stay safe, have wonderful Global Entrepreneurship Weeks, and we'll speak to you soon. Thank you very much, everybody. Bye-bye.